In this section of the course, I'd like you to continue watching and studying the code developed in the previous section with respect to object lifecycle, which, if you remember, covers constructors, destructors, object references, and general ideas regarding lifetime or lifespan between the object creation and destruction. Here this week I'm just going to go over the highlights of Laboratory 5. So in this laboratory we're going to discover the functionality of a full-text library text editor and also its a satellite object or helper object named text buffer. So text editor is resembling a notepad type of environment where you have a multi-line text editor available to the user. So it's a text editor widget. So you can edit text. You can also highlight, scroll up and down, and so forth. Now, it does not store the data directly in this widget. To be able to store the edited data so that the user can enter more and more and more and scroll up and down in a longer text, we also need to create text buffer object and maintain its instance to link it with text editor, so both of them will work together as a single widget presenting text data to the user. You can also use a variation of text editor that is called text display. So that would be display only or read only box. I have already created a Visual Studio project which is a copy of previous lab 4. So you can see I already renamed it to be lab 5 multi-line. Right here, my solution, my project name, and also the main file I have already renamed. So the next step in this laboratory is pretty standard. We'd like to add text editor widget to the fluid window that we have. So I'm going to start my fluid program, which is located under external fluid. So I'm just going to start this application. And now, of course, I need to be careful not to open the wrong fluid file, but the fluid file that corresponds to my my current project, which is lab 5. So this is the directory where I want to point it. In my practice, since I always keep file manager window open, I just have a habit of just copying this and going to say file open, and without any hesitation just replace whatever is being right here, just replace it, and I know for sure that I'm in the right place, and this is the FL file that I open in Fluid. So for now I'll just close this Solution Explorer to keep it clean. And so our task is to use widget bin to add the widgets to our window. So first of all, we already, of course, this is an empty window, and perhaps we can change the title to match our laboratory exercise. How about we just use this portion right here, double click, C++, actually GUI, right, and the label will appear in the title of our window. Because the window itself is a widget in full-text library representation. And so once we select this, I'm going to scroll back to adding this widget. So we're going to select, and we can also say widget bin. Okay, we can use our widget bin, and we're going to have to locate in this widget bin our text editor. So let's take a look, and I think it's this text editor right here. Okay, so let's resize this because it's going to look like text, editable text in this window, so we can align it a little bit with the current window size. So we're going to be focusing on the functionality of this text editor, and we're going to give it a name, of course, so that we can communicate with this widget. And the properties, C++ properties name, is where we enter this text edit name of this control. Of course, this will be a pointer to full-tick text editor gadget. Okay, so I'll just close it for now. Now we need two push buttons, as was shown right here: show text and get text. Okay, so this is just the proof that we can both write into the text window and read information from it. So show text and get text. So we need two of these push buttons. Okay, so once again the button is located right here, so we can add a button. It kind of shows up in a strange place, but I should be able to relocate this button. It has appeared in a strange size, so I'll just resize this button and move it down here so it's more reasonable in size. And we can copy and paste, Control-C and Control-V. We can duplicate this button because we need two of them. So now we have two buttons, and according to our handout, we're going to give them names. Button show text, because we're gonna have to give these button callback function addresses, so we definitely need to identify them. So this will be button show text, and the label will be show text. Okay, and this appears to be the second button, so now we'll go here and say get text, and the name will be button get text. Okay, so these are pointers to these two button widgets in full-tick library. So I'll just kind of like swap them around like this, maybe to match the design right here. Show text, yeah. Okay, good enough. I guess that's close enough. Okay, so this is our user interface design so far. So we're looking at our push buttons, and now of course we need to add callback functions. First of all, there will be some modifications to the class that handles this window. I suppose that we're now going to write the code from within Fluid window. So typical steps are save the project and then write code. So the files were written, and then of course you can see that they're all written now, and the next step is to modify the code of main window.h. Again, I find it easy to I'll just minimize Fluid for now, to just drag and drop from the file manager any file that belongs to my project. It's fine, right? So we've finished this code in our previous lab, and we're going to continue to include Fluid project. The new element in this main window class, which represents our main application window, is going to be a pointer to text buffer. That's that helper class that we need to add, or helper object that will be working with the text editor widget to store information entered by the user. That's the design. This is the data object, and the widget is the text editor. So we'll hook them up together. Now there will be two new member functions, And this is where we're going to do the work associated with. So I'll just start annotating this, that these are, how about I name these two, just align them, okay, like this. And I'll just get rid of these new comments. I don't really need these. So these are really, these two member functions of main window are event handlers, right? So these two functions really do something useful with respect to button clicks, right? So we can say that these are click handlers, but we could have other types of handlers right here, right? And then callback functions are the elements that we use to make a plumbing connection with full-text library widgets. Okay, so these functions have to be static. We already established that they need to be static, and this is for button show and button get. Okay, so these are the modifications, I believe, that are new gadget right here, or data object. And so this is our header file. So in the next step, we also need to open mainwindow.cpp. So this is our implementation file, already created in previous lab, very convenient. So right here, let's start by adding these callback functions. I guess what I'm going to do is just add them one by one. So we'll already have callback window closing, so we can just keep what we have here. The new portion here is going to be this function, which is callback. Now remember, I call or give names to these functions with the callback prefix. I know that these are all static functions. So the functions that were declared static, which do not require an object to be invoked, which is perfect for the callback from the full-text library. So this is one. This is the second one that I want, and this is so just a sample function. So this is when I say click, remember that these are actual event handlers. So event handlers are named clicks. So this is something that we do for real in our application, and these are just plumbing pieces. Okay, so the next one is another callback for the second button, and I guess I can keep these next to each other. Okay, so we can even add a comment right here saying static callback. Okay, and these are real event handlers. Okay, and so the remaining pieces right here. So all these functions are now in place. In fact, we still have to make some modifications in the show function right here, but for now I think that we should be able to build this application at this stage, and it's possible. Okay, so this is nice. Everything is good. So the only stuff that remaining is that in the show, and of course remember that our main function creates the window, which is this window that we're trying to design right now, and it calls show. So this is like a startup code of our application. So when this function is invoked right here, this show function, when it's invoked, nothing is yet visible. The graphical user interface is still not visible to the user, so we can do things whatever we want to establish some sort of setup code, get ready for the user to start using the application. Okay, so let's take a look. And the new code is really just making sure that the buttons get information about our callbacks. So this is again very standard plumbing. Normally you just copy these things and change the names of callback functions and the names of your buttons. So this is really just very routine. The important thing is to understand what is the logic behind these two things. But now these callbacks are also placed. So we'll take a walk through this code in our next video. For now, I'm just going to build again and press Ctrl F5 to run the application. So this is my window, of course, and I will say show text. So we register, and I realized that when I click this button, my application crashed brutally. And the reason for it is that I totally forgot that I never created this object, the text buffer. Apparently we need to scroll back, and the one missing piece is that we're now going to add constructor to our main window, which I totally forgot about. So I place my constructor somewhere here. Okay, so and then the implementation of the constructor is shown right here. So implementation, of course, belongs to main window.cpp, and we are going to put it somewhere right at the top of this file, I guess. So here, if I put this side by side like this, you realize that we added the pointer to the data members of the main window class, and we're going to create this text buffer as new FL text buffer, and we are going to tell our text editor widget that your buffer is this object. So that's just another piece of connection right here. So basically, text editor has to have the satellite or helper object to be provided to it, so that we can use the functionality of the text buffer. So sorry about that, I forgot, but it's good that the application crashed first because because this was null. And so I'm just going to rerun this again. And so now it appears to be even different. Say show text. So the show text is hard-coded inside here. So you see, just prints line 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you can scroll the way down. So this is just hard-coded text that we pass to text buffer text function, which gets populated there, and get text actually retrieves this information and for the testing purposes just prints all of this on the console window. And this happens in the get text. You see how we just use a standard output device, and we say button get text was clicked, and we simply display whatever text is available inside the text buffer. So this is the entire application. If I change this, for instance, I select all, Control A, and put backspace to delete this, and say hello world on two different lines, and now I say show text again. Oh, sorry, this was my mistake, wrong button. So let's try this again. Hello world, and click get text right here. Hello world is retrieved. So you can see that both of the buttons are fully functional. The callbacks are fully set up, so we can stop this application now, I suppose, and let's just make sure that we do a very quick examination of what is happening with respect to the callback functions setup.